Sierra, help me bring down the cartons from the attic. The realtor is coming to take photos of the house tomorrow. Mother's voice drifted from the kitchen, and my fingers clutching Father's portrait tightened abruptly. The cold metal edge of the frame dug into my palm, leaving 4 red marks. In the photo, Father was wearing khaki overalls, smiling on the front lawn of 17 Oak Street, with the red maple he'd planted himself behind him, its leaves as red as burning flames. Today was the 7th day since his funeral, and I was still shedding tears over not finding the toolbox he'd hidden, yet Mother was already contacting realtors. What did you say? I rushed into the kitchen, the tile floor echoing with the urgent scrape of my shoes. I saw Mother shoving Father's coffee mug into a carton, that bone china mug he'd used for 20 years, with a faint chip on the rim from when I'd accidentally dropped it at 10. Father had never been willing to replace it. We're selling this house. Mother didn't look up, her fingers stiffly folding Father's old apron. The wrinkles at the corners of her eyes were much deeper than when Father was alive, like gullies carved by time. Caden's debts can't wait any longer. Caden, my uncle, the man who always wore crumpled suits and talked non-stop about the next big project. When Father was alive, he'd always said Caden was a bottomless black hole, but Mother had always defended her younger brother. 3 months ago, Father had a sudden heart attack at the construction site and fell from the scaffolding. The insurance payout and savings had barely covered the funeral expenses when Caden showed up with a mountain of gambling debts, saying he owed the gang $50,000, and they'd break his legs if he didn't pay up. This is Dad's house. I grabbed Mother's wrist, her hand as cold as if it had just been taken out of the fridge. How many scaffolding climbs did it take him to save up for the down payment? We've lived here for 18 years, he taught me to fix bikes in the garage, told me stories about his childhood under the red maple. You're going to sell all this for that liar? Mother suddenly wrenched her hand away from mine with such force that I stumbled and crashed into the counter. The carton clattered to the floor, and the coffee mug rolled out. Its chipped rim hit the tile, shattering into 2 pieces. Tiny porcelain shards splashed onto my ankle, stinging sharply. Sierra Nolan, watch your mouth. Her voice trembled, her eyes red-rimmed, but she held her ground stubbornly. Caden is my brother. My mom died early, I carried him out of the orphanage. When he was hungry, I saved my bread for him. Now they're going to break his legs, how could I just ignore it? This house is community property, I have the right to decide what to do with it. Community property? I trembled with anger, tears uncontrollably streaming down my face. If Dad knew you were going to use the home he risked his life for to fill your brother's gambling hole, he'd never rest in peace. Did you forget what he said last time? He said, Elena, if we help Caden one more time, we'll really have nothing left. You promised him then, but now that he's just gone, you're going back on your word. What else could I do? Mother suddenly raised her voice, slamming her hands hard on the counter, making the bowls and plates rattle. Those men sent me a photo of Caden's finger yesterday. He cried and begged me, said this was the last time. I'm his sister, could I just watch him die? What about me? I screamed, my voice hoarse. Dad's gone. If you sell this house, I'll really have no home left. You only have eyes for your brother, never for me. Our quarrel was like exploding firecrackers, attracting Mrs. Rosita, our neighbor. She'd been Father's old colleague and had watched me grow up, knowing Caden's true colors. Elena, Mrs. Rosita pushed open the door, her brows furrowed into a knot. Caden's mess isn't Sierra's fault. You can't risk this house. Those loan sharks, even if you pay them back, they won't let him go. They'll just make him owe more. But Mother was as stubborn as if she'd been blinded. She turned her face away. I still can't just leave him. Thank you for your concern, Rosita, but this is our family's business. Mrs. Rosita shook her head helplessly, slipping me a note with a lawyer's phone number before leaving. Call me anytime if you need help, she whispered, her eyes filled with worry. In the days that followed, Mother began packing frantically, throwing photos and mementos of Father and me into cartons. The 18th birthday gift Father had given me, a hand-carved wooden bird, was also roughly stuffed into a corner, its wings bent. I tried to talk to her, but she either stayed silent or accused me of being cold-hearted. I watched her growing haggard face, heavy dark circles under her eyes, and messy hair, feeling both angry and heartbroken. When Father was alive, she'd never had to worry about such things, spending her days tending the garden and reading books. But now she was crushed under the weight of my uncle's debts. I remembered the money Father had hidden in a book. I sneaked into the study and sure enough, found an envelope in American history, containing $30,000 in cash and a note, "To my precious daughter, may you always be free and happy." Tears instantly blurred my vision. I clutched the envelope tightly, a plan forming in my mind. I contacted the lawyer Mrs. Rosita had recommended, consulting about the house. The lawyer told me that although the house was community property, after Father's death, as the legal heir, I was entitled to inherit half the property. Mother couldn't decide to sell it unilaterally. Unless you sign your consent, she can't complete the transaction. The lawyer's words made me breathe a sigh of relief. That night, I told Mother what the lawyer had said. She sat on the sofa, silent for a long time, then suddenly covered her face and cried, her shoulders shaking violently. "Sierra, I had no choice," she sobbed. "Caden's my only brother. I can't lose him." Seeing Mother's vulnerable state, my anger gradually faded. I sat beside her, gently patting her back. "Mom, I know it's hard for you, but we can't risk our home. Dad left $30,000. We can pay part of it first, and let Uncle figure out the rest. He's an adult now, he should take responsibility for his actions." Mother looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. "Those people won't give us time. They called yesterday threatening me, saying if we don't pay soon, they'll come and cause trouble at home. Then we'll call the police," I said firmly. "Loan sharking is illegal. We can't let them threaten us." Just then, the doorbell rang suddenly. Mother trembled all over, her face turning as pale as a sheet of paper. I held her hand tightly, walked to the door, and through the peephole saw two men in black suits with fierce expressions standing outside. "It's them," Mother's voice trembled, and she tried to step back. I pulled her back, took a deep breath, and opened the door. "Miss Elena," the taller man spoke, his voice as cold as winter wind. "We're here to remind you that Caden's debt is 3 days overdue. If you can't pay it off today, we'll have to follow the rules." "We don't have the money," I stood in front of Mother, trying to keep my voice calm. "But I know your loan sharking is illegal. If you dare cause trouble here, I'll call the police right now." The tall man sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. "Little girl, don't think calling the police will solve anything. Caden signed a contract, black and white. He has to pay. The contract is invalid." I took out my phone and turned on the recording function. According to California law, loan contracts with an annual interest rate exceeding 36% are not protected by law. Your interest rate is over 50%, I can sue you completely. The man's expression changed, clearly not expecting me to know this. He exchanged a glance with his companion, whispered a few words, then said to my mother, "We'll give you a week to come up with $25,000. We can waive the rest. If you still can't get it in a week, we'll have to go find Caden." With that, they turned and left. Mother collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath, her face as white as paper. "Sierra, thank you," she hugged me, her voice full of guilt. Mom was wrong to stubbornly want to sell the house. Mom was too selfish, not considering your feelings. "Mom, I know you feel bad for Uncle," I hugged her back. "But we can't sacrifice our happiness to pay for his mistakes. From now on, we'll figure it out together." It will pass eventually. The next day, Mother and I went to find Caden together. He was hiding in a cheap apartment, the curtains drawn tightly. The room smelled of smoke and mildew, his hair messy like a bird's nest, eye sockets sunken, completely losing his former vitality. When he saw us, his eyes lit up at first, then he looked guilty, lowering his head and daring not to meet our gaze. Caden, this is the last time we'll help you. Mother placed $25,000 on the table, her voice hoarse. This money was left by Sierra's father. Take it to pay off part of the debt, you'll have to figure out the rest yourself. I won't give you a penny more from now on. You have to learn to take responsibility for your actions. Caden picked up the money, counting it quickly with his fingers. The guilt in his eyes disappeared instantly, replaced by greed. Only 25,000? He frowned, dissatisfied. Sis, this is nowhere near enough. Those guys said I still owe 30,000. Think of another way, sell the house. Selling it will let us pay off the debt completely, and I'll buy you a better one later. Mother's face turned deathly pale in an instant. She took a step back, as if unable to believe her ears. Caden, you. Sis, I know you love me. Caden stepped forward, trying to grab Mother's hand. That house isn't worth anything anyway. Sell it and get a smaller one, we'll both be better off. If you don't help me, those people will really kill me. Enough. I cut him off sharply. Caden, this is the last time. Mom already took out the tuition money Dad left for me, and you're still not satisfied? You owe the debt, you figure out how to pay it. From today on, we won't have anything more to do with you. Who do you think you are, little girl, talking to me like that? Caden flew into a rage, pointing his finger at me. If you hadn't stopped it, the house would have been sold long ago, and I wouldn't be in this mess. Elena, if you don't help me, I'll sue you in court, saying you're hogging our parents' inheritance and ignoring your brother's life. Tears streamed down Mother's face, but she didn't soften like before. She just shook her head, her voice filled with unprecedented exhaustion. Caden, I really did my best. From now on, you're on your own. With that, she pulled me and turned to leave, not looking back despite Caden's curses and cries behind us. Walking out of the apartment building, the sun filtered through the leaves onto us, warm and bright, but it couldn't dispel the gloom in Mother's eyes. She linked her arm through mine, her voice choking. Sierra, how did he become like this? Mom, it's not your fault. I stopped and looked at her seriously. You've sacrificed too much for him, he just doesn't know how to cherish it. You can't live for him your whole life, and Dad wouldn't want you to either. We should live our own lives well and hold on to this home, that's the best way to comfort Dad. Mother looked at me, a hint of confusion in her eyes, then it turned to determination. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks, but she broke into a relieved smile. Back home, Mother moved all the packed cartons back, carefully picking up the pieces of Father's coffee mug and putting them into a small box. I'll buy some glue tomorrow to fix it, she said with a smile, her eyes regaining their sparkle. From now on, it's just us two, living a good life. I watched her busy figure, picked up Father's portrait, and whispered, Dad, don't worry. I'll protect Mom and our home. Father in the photo was still smiling, as if responding to me. In the days that followed, Caden did come to us a few more times, first calling and crying, then coming to our door to cause trouble, yelling that Mother was heartless. Every time, Mother just shut the doors and windows tightly, silently wiping her tears, but she never wavered again. Gradually, Caden's calls became fewer and fewer, and eventually stopped altogether. Mrs. Rosita occasionally heard that he owed even more debts, was chased around by loan sharks, and finally disappeared somewhere, like he'd vanished into thin air. When Mother heard this, she would always be silent for a long time, a hint of sadness in her eyes, but she never mentioned helping him again. That night, Mother and I sat in the living room, drinking father's favorite coffee. The shadow of the red maple filtered through the window onto the floor, swaying gently. Mother picked up the glued coffee mug. The crack on the cup body was like a faint mark, but it was still strong. "Sierra, you were right," she said softly. "We can't pay for others' mistakes. Guarding our own lives is the most important thing." I nodded, my heart suddenly clear. The red maple at 17 Oak Street was still lush and leafy, Father's toolbox was still hidden in the corner of the garage, and our home was still there. There are always irreparable regrets in life, and bonds that have to be cut, but true love has never been bottomless sacrifice. It's holding on to the happiness that belongs to us, carrying the expectations of the deceased, and living well. Moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating every corner of the room and the hope in our hearts. I knew that even though Father was gone, his love would always guard us, and our home would always be warm as ever because of this persistence. Some cracks may never fully disappear, but as long as our hearts are together, we can bloom the most beautiful flowers upon those cracks.